Hey, 49ers faithful. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another day full of red and gold talk, because you know how it goes. There's never a dull moment when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers. This team keeps the headlines coming. And today we've got some fascinating updates about free agency targets that could potentially make a real difference as the season keeps rolling. Now, while some of these names might sound familiar, others might surprise you, but all of them bring something unique that could help this roster stay strong and competitive. Let's start things off with the defensive line, because as any true Niners fan knows, that's where the heart of this team's identity begins. One of the biggest names floating around right now is Christian Wilkins. Yeah, that's right. The same Wilkins who dominated with the Miami Dolphins before signing a big-time deal with the Las Vegas Raiders. But here's the catch. His name's been quiet lately, and that's raising a few eyebrows. The reason? Health questions. Word is the Raiders wanted him to undergo surgery on a foot injury, possibly a Lisfranc or even a Jones fracture, but he refused. So while the talent is undeniable, the durability might be a real concern. On top of that, there have been whispers about some locker room tension, and apparently, no team visits have been confirmed. That tells you the market is hesitant, even though Wilkins, when healthy, has been one of the most productive interior linemen in the league. Just last year with Miami, he notched 9 sacks from the interior. That's elite production. But with that foot still not 100%, I'd be cautious if I were the Niners front office. Moving from the trenches to the secondary, there's another big name that could help out: Justin Simmons. The veteran safety, a multi-time All-Pro, is still without a team, and that's honestly hard to believe. At 31 years old, Simmons brings leadership, experience, and ball-hawking ability. His time with Atlanta last season didn't exactly go as planned, but it's important to look at context. The Falcons' defense was one of the worst in the league, finishing dead last in sacks and pressures. You can't expect a safety to thrive when the front seven can't get home. In San Francisco, surrounded by a much more disciplined and aggressive defense, Simmons could easily bounce back to form. He's the kind of player who not only contributes on the field, but also in the locker room. And right now, that veteran voice in the defensive backfield could be exactly what the Niners need. Now let's talk about a younger, high-upside player who's making some noise. Asani Samuel Jr., you know the name, because his dad was an absolute stud in the league, and Jr.'s got those same instincts and ball skills. After undergoing spinal fusion surgery back in April, he's now been medically cleared and ready to go. ESPN reports that he's already talking to several teams, and here's the exciting part: he's expected to visit the 49ers on Monday. Imagine pairing him with a group that already includes underrated players like Diamador Lenore and Upton Stout. That could be a huge boost to the secondary. Before the injury, Samuel Jr. was a pass breakup machine, double-digit PBUs every single year. He reads quarterbacks like a veteran, jumps routes, and plays with serious confidence. Yes, the injury history is concerning, but when he's healthy, he's a high-level corner who fits perfectly in the Niners' defensive scheme. And speaking of corners, another name still out there is Stephon Gilmore. The man's 35 years old now, but let's not forget he was the Defensive Player of the Year in 2019. Even though he's no longer in his prime, Gilmore continues to show flashes of elite awareness and anticipation. With Minnesota last season, he had 9 pass breakups, and the year before in Dallas, he had 13. That's not the production of a washed-up player. That's a veteran who still knows how to position himself and get the job done. Sometimes having that steady veteran presence can make a world of difference for a young cornerback group that's still developing its identity. One more linebacker that's worth mentioning: Eric Kendricks. Now, this name might sting a little for Niner fans because he once verbally agreed to join San Francisco before signing with the Dallas Cowboys at the last second. But leaving that aside, Kendricks is still a player with Pro Bowl experience who's proven to be a tackling machine. 138 tackles last season, 3 sacks, and 2 interceptions. Not bad for someone some people claim is past his best. You add that to a linebacker room already featuring young talents like Tatum Bethune and D. Winters, and you suddenly have depth and experience that could be key down the stretch, especially if injuries hit late in the season. Josey Jewell is another linebacker who could fit the system well. He's been consistent throughout his career, a solid tackler with a nose for the ball. Last year with Carolina, he racked up 97 tackles, 7 for loss, and even contributed with a few sacks and pass breakups. He's the kind of guy who's not flashy but gets the job done, a classic under-the-radar type player who would thrive under defensive coordinator Steve Wilks. Looking back to the secondary, Kendall Fuller stands out as another intriguing option. He's bounced around a few teams, including Washington, Kansas City, and Miami, but he's always been dependable. He's recorded strong pass breakup numbers year after year, 16 in 2021 and 13 in 2022, which shows his ability to stay active in coverage. With some uncertainty surrounding depth behind starters like Luter Jr., having a veteran like Fuller to rotate in could be a smart move. And let's not forget about the edge rushers. One name that jumps out is Shaquille Barrett, a two-time Super Bowl champion and former All-Pro who's had some incredible seasons, including that insane 19.5 sack campaign back in 2019. He's the kind of player who can bring both experience and pass rushing skill. Even though he's not as explosive as he once was, Barrett still knows how to use leverage, angles, and hand techniques to create pressure. Pairing him with Nick Bosa could be scary for opposing quarterbacks, especially on key third downs when the Niners love to bring the heat. Then there's DJ Chark, a name more associated with the offensive side of the ball. He had that breakout season with over 1,000 yards back in 2019, and while injuries have slowed him down since, when healthy, he's still got that speed to stretch the field. If the Niners ever find themselves needing extra depth at wide receiver, especially if Brandon Ayuk's situation becomes uncertain, Chark could be a cost-effective veteran who adds some deep threat ability. As we look at all these names, one thing becomes clear. San Francisco has plenty of potential options to explore, whether it's patching up the secondary, bolstering the pass rush, or adding insurance at linebacker. The trade deadline might have passed, but there's still time for smart front office moves that could pay huge dividends later in the season. And knowing how this organization operates, you can bet they're keeping tabs on every available veteran who can help maintain their standard of excellence. So, let's keep this conversation rolling because there are still plenty of names floating around out there that could end up wearing red and gold before the season's over. Every year, we see late-season signings that completely shift the balance of a playoff race, and the 49ers have never been afraid to make a bold move when the opportunity's right. When you're chasing another Super Bowl, every roster spot counts, every decision matters, and that's exactly the mindset San Francisco's front office needs to keep. Let's get back into the linebacker conversation for a second, because there are a couple more veterans who deserve a closer look. Jahlani Tavai, for example, might not be on everyone's radar, but he's been a steady tackler throughout his career. However, if we're talking about someone with a bit more name recognition, Jelani Bentley stands out. The former Patriot is a physical, downhill linebacker who brings intensity to every snap. Even though last season was basically lost due to injury, his track record before that showed consistency and toughness. From 2020 through 2022, Bentley piled up double-digit tackles in nearly every game and established himself as a reliable run stopper. He doesn't offer elite coverage skills, but as a rotational or situational linebacker, he'd be a strong addition. Now, if you want someone who could do a little bit of everything, tackle, blitz, cover, Josey Jewell still makes a lot of sense. We mentioned him earlier, but his tape deserves another look. He's the kind of guy who flies under the radar because he doesn't make highlight plays every week, but when you look at the film, he's constantly around the ball. 97 tackles, 7 for loss, and 3.5 sacks last season tell you exactly what kind of worker he is. That versatility is valuable for a team that prides itself on defensive depth and adaptability. Shifting over to the defensive backfield again, the Niners might also take a look at James Bradberry, who just a couple of seasons ago was one of the best corners in the entire league. Back in 2022, he earned All-Pro honors after a stellar year with 17 pass breakups, locking down top receivers and helping the Eagles make their Super Bowl run. But since then, things haven't gone quite as smoothly. Injuries slowed him down, and a move to safety last season didn't really fit his strengths. Still, in the right system, especially one that values experience and smart positioning like San Francisco's, Bradberry could be an interesting reclamation project. A veteran who's been through battles, understands playoff football, and knows how to handle big moments. That's something you can never have too much of. Moving to the running back position, Gus Edwards is a name that keeps coming up in discussions around available players. He's not flashy. He's not the kind of guy who's going to break a 70-yard run every week, but he's a workhorse who gets tough yards and finds the end zone. 13 touchdowns last season with Baltimore says a lot about his effectiveness near the goal line. When you think about how San Francisco loves to use physical runners in short yardage situations, Edwards could easily fill a complementary role behind Christian McCaffrey, especially if the team wants to limit McCaffrey's touches late in the year to keep him fresh for the playoffs. Another fascinating name is Isaiah Simmons. When he was coming out of college, everyone was talking about him as one of the most unique defensive prospects we'd seen in years, a guy who could line up as a safety, linebacker, or even rush off the edge. But since entering the league, teams haven't quite figured out how to use him. Arizona tried him in multiple roles, then he moved to the Giants, and again, the fit just wasn't there. Still, the athletic potential is undeniable. In a system like San Francisco's, where versatility and speed are crucial, Simmons could finally find the stability he's been missing. Sometimes all a player like that needs is the right coaching and a clear role. Speaking of versatility, Jamal Williams is another player still out there, and his energy alone could bring a spark to any locker room. The guy plays with passion, celebrates every first down like it's a touchdown, and always brings a positive attitude. Back in his Lions days, he led the league in rushing touchdowns and became a fan favorite because of his effort and toughness. While the Niners might not be in dire need of another running back, having someone with that kind of leadership and energy on the sideline and in practice could be invaluable during a long season. Vonn Bell is another name worth considering at safety. He's known as a hard hitter with strong instincts, and while he's not a turnover machine, he's reliable in coverage and rarely out of position. A player like that adds dependability to a secondary that's dealt with some inconsistency. For a defense that's built on communication and trust, a veteran like Bell could be a steadying influence. Now, a few wide receivers are still floating around the free agent market too. Odell Beckham Jr., for instance, is one of those players who always draws attention. His early years in the league were electric, one-handed catches, highlight reels, game-changing performances. But injuries have taken their toll, and the question now is whether he can still be that difference maker. Even though his last stint didn't go as planned, a healthy Beckham is still dangerous. The Niners don't necessarily need another top-tier receiver, but if the opportunity ever arises to bring him in on a team-friendly deal, it could be worth exploring. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to 49ers Zone and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the San Francisco 49ers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Could George Kittle be done with the 49ers? Or is this just another media frenzy? The star tight end, known for his fiery passion and fearless play, reportedly sent a message that has sent shockwaves through San Francisco and the NFL at large. If he comes back, then they don't need me. Sources close to the situation suggest Kittle's words were directed at whispers surrounding another tight and potentially joining the 49ers roster, sparking speculation about his future in the Bay Area. Kittle, a cornerstone of San Francisco's offense for years, has become more than just a player. He is a symbol of the team's grit and intensity. Yet, insiders hint that the team's front office might be exploring options that could impact Kittle's role, and the tight end appears to be making his feelings crystal clear. The timing of his statement couldn't be more explosive, coming just as fans were already abuzz with trade rumors and off-season moves. Some analysts speculate that this might be Kittle's way of asserting his indispensability, reminding the 49ers and their fans that he's not just another piece to shuffle. Others argue it could signal frustration, a brewing storm that may result in either a standoff or an unexpected departure. His teammates reportedly respect his candor, but in the high-stakes world of the NFL, emotions like these can translate into headlines, trades, or contract renegotiations. Social media has exploded with reactions ranging from shock to support, with fans debating whether the team could really replace a player of Kittle's caliber. Meanwhile, 49ers officials remain tight-lipped, refusing to confirm any internal discussions. The next few weeks promise tension and speculation as the organization navigates not only Kittle's statement, but also the broader strategy for its offense. For now, one thing is certain. George Kittle has reminded everyone that he's not just a player. You don't just slip another tight end into his shoes without expecting fireworks. Whether this is posturing a genuine threat or just Kittle's unique way of speaking his mind, the league, and especially the 49ers, will be watching closely. And as always, the rumor mill is already spinning, predicting drama, decisions, and perhaps one of the most talked about off-season sagas yet. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the San Francisco 49ers, make sure to subscribe to 49ers Zone and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.